Contact Greg Ellie today at 864-989-0176.
At Simple Path Retirement, we don't answer to corporate management or shareholders. We answer to you. Start living your best life today. Visit simplepathretirement.com.
With SRN News, I'm Michael Harrington in Washington. President Trump has put the world on notice with his plan to impose reciprocal tariffs.
The president has directed his administration's top trade officials to outline a new series of tariffs, calling it a matter of fairness.
We're just going to do it the easy way, and we're just going to say whatever you charge, we charge, and I think that's fair for the people of the United States.
He predicted the tariffs would lead to more U.S. jobs, but acknowledged prices could go higher in the short term. The reciprocal tariffs aren't scheduled to take effect until at least April. Greg Clugston, Washington.
America's vice president stands up for religious liberty in a speech to European allies.
At Friday's Munich Security Conference, Vice President J.D. Vance warned that erosion of freedom of speech and religion were internal dangers in NATO nations that rival invasion by a hostile military power. Among the examples he cited was a new law in Scotland that could impact citizens whose homes lie within so-called abortion clinic buffer zones.
Even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law.
Speaking a day after his visit to the Dachau concentration camp, the vice president said the winners of the Cold War should not emulate the political suppression practiced by former oppressive regimes. George Williams reporting.
Workers at an Amazon warehouse in North Carolina have rejected a proposal to unionize. They're the latest group of the company's employees to side against union representation. The National Labor Relations Board said about three-quarters of employees at an Amazon fulfillment center in Garner, town located near Raleigh, voted yesterday against joining a grassroots labor organization called Carolina Amazonians United. Wisconsin's second oldest prison, built in the 1800s, would finally be shuttered under a new plan from Governor Tony Evers. The plan proposes sweeping changes in the state's entire correctional system. This is SRN News.
Are you a writer who's devoted your time to writing a book with Christian morals behind it but need help to get it published? Maybe you wrote a children's book, your memoirs, a devotional, or a mystery with strong moral values at its core. Covenant Books has helped faith-based authors publish, edit, and sell their books through Christian bookstores and major online book retailers. Plus, if you call now at 800-255-9500, we're offering a free writer's guide to help you through the publishing process. Our experienced and dedicated staff will review and notate your manuscript with an editor's eye. Then our page designers will format your book to create the appropriate experience for your readers. And if needed, Covenant's talented illustrators will bring your book to life. Most importantly, Covenant Books will help tell your story by printing, marketing, and distributing your book through specialty Christian bookstores and major online book retailers like Amazon, Apple, and many others. Covenant Books. Let us help tell your story. For your free writer's guide, call 800-255-9500. That's 800-255-9500. 800-255-9500.
Get your daily dose of Dennis Prager at PragerTopia.com. Hear the Happiness Hour, Celebrity Guest Day, Male-Female Hour, Ultimate Issues Hour, and Open Lines. PragerTopia.com.
Just when you thought your smartphone couldn't get any smarter, now you can add the AM860 app with local news, national headlines, and commentary. The answer is smart. Adding the AM860 app to your smartphone is genius. Get it now at the Apple App Store and Google Play.
Today, mostly cloudy and windy. A couple of thunder showers around this afternoon. Our high today at 79. Clearing and cool tonight, low 55. Mostly sunny, pleasant, less humid day on Monday. High tomorrow at 73. Partly cloudy for tomorrow night, low 53. Clouds will be followed by a brightening sky on Tuesday. High at 77. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Steve Williams for AM 860. The Answer.
The following program is sponsored by Bay Area Medical Can Care Clinic.
Yo, Doc.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Bill, your radio MD, and we're doing a show this morning. I got Ken with me, and I think he hit some buttons wrongly, and now he's got them back up. But nobody knows. I think it's the computers, Ken.
It's the internet, Doc.
It's the internet.
The internet's coming for us all. It's going to get us all.
It's going to get us all. So I came down with influenza.
Oh.
Believe it or not, buddy boy.
But you're doing a show anyway. What a guy.
I'm doing a show, but I started taking the Tamiflu Now, there's a couple of different antivirals that you can take. Tamiflu, and it's got a cousin. And there's also the old-time drug amantadine and its cousin. Now, amantadine was actually a drug that was invented for and used for Parkinson's disease and Parkinsonian symptoms, and we also gave it to people who were on antipsychotics because the antipsychotics can cause a Parkinsonian-like syndrome, like President Biden has, and so that's a problem that it can make you a little goofy. So we try to not use that anymore since we've got the newer drugs that are specifically targeting the virus itself. Targets the little receptors on the spikes that attach it to the cell.
Is that what's behind you on the screen there? If you're watching on Facebook, you can see all this.
Yeah, that's it. And
looks pretty ugly, Doc.
Yeah, and so the hemagglutinin and neuraminidase, the hemagglutinin attaches it to the cell membrane, and the neuraminidase allows it to open the cell membrane up and get in and out. So once it makes its little babies,
you're sick.
Then they can escape. So this part here, the inner part, is the genetic material. That's the RNA. So what happens is these things attach to a living cell, and they inject their RNA into the cell, and the RNA displaces your messenger RNA and starts telling the cell to make little baby viruses. So are viruses really living organisms? Probably the way we define living, no. They're pre-living organisms, kind of. They don't have the ability to reproduce on their own, and they can't interact with each other, but they can interact with your cells and your tissues, and also other cells. And these are widespread. The use of viruses is becoming quite common, not only for diagnosis and for research, but also they use a viral count of viruses, a specific virus that infects pepper. And you may find this odd, but what they do now for sewage count, for the sewage burden, is they count the number of these pepper viruses in the sewage coming out into the lakes and the oceans. And if the count's too high, then you've got a sewer leak. So instead of counting E. coli or other bacteria, they just go right to the virus itself. And why? Because pepper is ubiquitous around the world. Everybody uses pepper.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Now you know.
I didn't know they were looking at that kind of thing, to tell you the truth. But I guess everybody needs a job. So.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And
well.
And it's got a lot of fascinating aspects to it because the viruses there's so many viruses in the universe that, they're uncountable. You have hundreds of millions of viruses in you right now. God knows what they're doing, and they're partying probably.
Well, I feel pretty good considering, yeah.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. You think about one cell, which is microscopic, and one cell can end up being a factory for 100 viruses. And so you think about the hundreds of millions, billions of cells in your body and all over the world and in everything, then the number of viruses is really almost infinite. It's just unbelievable. And they infect everything, plants, animals.
Chickens. That's why eggs are so expensive.
Chickens. Yeah. Now, the drugs that we use for influenza, the newer drugs, the Tamiflu kind of drugs, they will work against swine flu, but the older drugs like amantadine will not. So, and swine flu is a particularly nasty strain, and it caused a lot of deaths the last time it came around back in the 70s. And I think we had a little outbreak in the early 2000s, but I don't think we had as severe a morbidity and mortality rate as we had back in the 70s. But we saw people die from this and get Guillain-Barré's post-flu. So it is a bad one, that swine flu. I don't like those swines anyway. I don't eat swine.
You don't have, you're not you're not a fan of bacon?
Oh, I love bacon, but since I'm a vegetarian, I can't eat it.
Oh, yeah.
My Swami said that's bad for me.
Pretty much the whole pig is.
Yeah, I don't know if
it's out of bounds for you then. Yeah.
So how do you know if you have the flu, Ken? Well,
you feel like you.
Yeah, you feel body aches, chills. You can have a cough, fatigue, headache. With a cold, you usually don't have a headache. And with COVID, you usually don't have a headache. But with flu, you can get a headache. And of course, you can get nasal congestion with allergies and cold and flu, but not commonly with COVID. COVID doesn't really cause an upper respiratory syndrome. At least the original virus did. Now the new one is causing some sore throat and that sort of thing. Of course, you can lose taste with your COVID, but it's rare that you lose taste with a cold or a flu. The cold, usually self-limited, nothing to do about it. Rarely does it go into anything more serious unless you have some kind of pre-existing problem like COPD or lung disease. And then what happens is the inflammatory effects of this can cause you to have a secondary bacterial pneumonia. Now with flu, sometimes you can get nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, but you don't get that with a cold typically. Sometimes you can. Of course, sneezing, that goes along with allergies, cold, flu, but not so much with the COVID. So if you got the chills and the dry cough, the body aches, the fever, stuffiness, all those symptoms that are common for the flu, then you probably got the flu. So
when do you call the doctor?
Yeah, well, the best thing to do is to get on the Tamiflu right away. So that's what I tell people is if you come in or you call, then we'll be able to treat you earlier. And that way
I've
you
never
won't
used
have
that. I've never used it. Is it good? I mean, it works well.
Yeah, it really works well. So I'm on my third day, I think, and I feel better already. So that's good.
What about the flu shot? Isn't the flu shot supposed to prevent all this stuff every year?
Flu shots are only about 75% effective because what we do when we make the flu vaccine is we guess at the strains that are going to be floating around the world in the year to come. So we try to see what's happening in Australia and then project that to Asia and Africa and the United States and South America, North America. But we're not 100% accurate, Ken. So we've had a wild strain going around this year, even though I got my flu vaccine. And I've seen a lot of people in the office with flu who had been vaccinated. But this is because we only are about 75% accurate in hitting the different strains that come out. Usually we do 2 or 3 strains in the vaccine.
So you're guessing. They're guessing at this.
A little bit of guess. Yeah, a little bit of science and epidemiology and a little bit of guessing.
And you get yourself a flu shot. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. Depends on if they guess right. Okay.
Yeah. Well, now there's some people that say I never get the flu. They probably have some natural antibodies immunity because of IgA, which is one of the antibodies in our system. IgA is in the mucous membrane, so it's in your nose and throat, mouth, GI tract, urinary tract, eyes, anywhere where there's a mucous membrane. Mucous membranes are skin cells that have been modified to secrete mucus or some kind of fluid to protect them from abrasions and things coming in and going out like food and feces and urine. And these are necessary because if you had regular skin inside your esophagus, your food tube, you couldn't get your food down. You need it to be a little slippery.
That makes sense.
And also it gives a medium for the body to secrete necessary things into, like the antibody IgA, and also in the gut, enzymes and digestive aids, and various substances in it. And then you can take up different things too with that you wouldn't be able to absorb otherwise. So it's a two-way street in that it helps you take things in, and it also helps get things out that are necessary and needed, like gastric acid and lipase and different enzymes that help you break down your food. So gastric acid is in the stomach, and the stomach has a particularly strong, potent lining because it has to protect itself against the pH of the stomach, which is very low, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. And then once you get into the small bowel, it's just the opposite. You've got alkaline setting there, and you need to have a little bit different mix of secretions in the mucous membrane, so those alkaline enzymes and proteins can get out and do their job to break the food down the rest of the way. So, because you got to break down fat, so you have lipases, and you have different ACEs that break down meats and proteins, and so it's a fascinating little system and very complex. And some people just seem to not get the flu, and I'm guessing that they probably have some type of IgA abnormality or inherited phenomena that allows them to fight off the influenza virus.
Well, I must be one of those people because I haven't had the flu since before COVID.
Dang.
So. Sorry, Doc. You're not going to get rich on me.
Hey, Ken, turn off your video feed.
I don't have a video feed on.
You have it on your laptop.
I don't even have a laptop on.
Well, then call Joe and tell him to turn it off.
I'll get our video gal over here. She'll take
I'm
a look.
popping in and out of the Facebook. By the way, you can get me on Facebook at William Handelman. Type that
so you're
in.
saying when I talk, I come on your Facebook page. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's going back and forth.
Oh, okay, we'll see if we can stop that.
See what you can do about that. All right, so is that enough about the flu? Do you understand now? Or
I do. Yeah, I understand why the flu shot is not necessarily effective all the time.
Hey, did you see the big hockey brouhaha?
No, I missed that. Darn, I would like to have seen that. I haven't seen a good hockey fight in years. They had like.
And you know what they're fighting over?
I don't know.
The Canadians are all booing the American, our national anthem when the American teams go up there and play a game. So they booed it at the basketball game. They're booing it at the hockey game, and the fans are being pretty nonviolent, as you know the Canadians are. But hockey guys are not nonviolent. And in the first minute of the game, 3 different pairs of American versus Canadians got into it. The American team's playing the Canadian team. By the way, we won.
I was going to say, did we win? If we won, it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we won. But apparently the American guys took umbrage at having their national anthem booed. And they'll probably start doing it in Europe, too, after Vice President Vance was lecturing them.
Yeah, I imagine we'll see some of that. When's the next Olympics?
Did you see that? Did you see what he said?
I snippets of it. I haven't been following the vice president that closely. So,
well, he basically was lecturing the Europeans on free speech and freedom of the press and freedom of religion, and saying you're not practicing it, and quit silencing people you don't agree with, because the far right and the far left, of course, they don't want to let them go on air or social media, and they have the big thing against hate speech and all that kind of silliness. And the Canadians do too. And I get into this with the Canadians all the time. I say, you don't have free speech. They say, yes, we do, except for mean things and hate speech. I said, well, then it's not free speach.
Exactly. That's part of speech.
In the United States,
you have to accept the good with the bad.
Yeah.
You have to have the good with the bad.
Yeah, you gotta let people express themselves as long as they don't cause a riot, and that's what our Supreme Court has said over and over again. So you can get a permit and go down to the park and rant and rave against whatever you want to, and but as long as you don't foment violence or riots, then you're okay.
Exactly, and they can't do that, so they don't have true free speech.
No, they don't have free speech, and there's just nowhere in the world like the United States. It just, you go to other democracies and they're not really what we think of as democracies. They're not our ideal of a democracy.
Don't they even dictate how much vacation time you get? I know it's a lot, which probably is too much, to tell you the truth. Like all of Europe takes like August off every year.
Yeah, and the Canadians all retire around 65, even earlier.
Really? With a nice
I don't know
pension?
how they
Everybody
do
got a
it.
pension up there? Or Social Security or something like that?
Yeah, you know, and if you work for the government, of course, you get a little bit more, and more than half of the people in Canada are actually government employees.
Okay. Are we sure we want this place as a 51st state?
No, we've already got California.
Sounds awfully expensive. Yeah.
No, we don't want them.
No.
And you know, they would be, I guess, population-wise, they'd be almost as big as California, maybe bigger. I don't know. And of course, the landmass, you couldn't have that as one state. You'd have to break it up.
Yeah, that's too
And
big.
they'd vote socialist.
Okay.
They'd vote ultra liberal because that's what they're used to. It's all what you grow up with, Ken, and what you live with.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we really need them.
No, we don't need them.
But they should pay us for protection.
We need them to send troops to the border and to spend their fair share on defense, because they're only spending 2%, and all we're asking is 5%, and we're spending 20%.
Yeah, that's not much. Hey, come on.
Come on, kick in. And they think they can get away with this because they've got their big brother on their southern and western border and mom on their eastern border, and then they got Greenland and on their northeast. We need to get Greenland. Somebody needs to go negotiate that. Do you think it can be done?
I don't think the Danes are going to give it up. They seem pretty adamant about that. I think they'll have to do it by force.
Well, we could just do like we did with the Mexican-American War. We could just take it and pay later. You know?
Yeah, well, you know, who really
Say, all right, now we got it. Now, how much you want? You know?
Not sure what we're going to do with it. I know there's a lot of hydroelectric power possible and stuff like that. So a lot of
there's all kinds of stuff there, and plus, you know, you'd have a humongous chunk of land that would protect our northeastern coast and the Canadian coast too. And you can control the shipping lanes because the Chinese and the Russians are now using the Arctic as a shipping lane route, and you could have better and more bases there if it were our territory, because now we have to negotiate with the Danes to put a base up there, and sometimes they're with us and sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
Europeans are they're different. You know, we were talking with a guy on the train, and I probably told you this, in Switzerland, a German guy, and I was saying, well, you know, you really don't have the same freedoms that we have, and you know, everybody marches lockstep, and you know, like behind Hitler or whatever. He said it's just a different way you grow up. You know, it's what you're used to.
Yeah.
And a Chinese guy I was talking to is a doctor here. We asked him. We said, well, what was it like growing up in China during Mao's era? He said, well, you know, you didn't know anything else. So you thought that was normal. You know, if they said, you go here, you went there, you thought, well, everybody else is doing it. I guess I should do it.
Yeah, but then the word got out about a place called the United States of America. And
well, I think
and
what
then
happened
once
is,
the internet arrived, they really had problems keeping the world out.
well, not only that, I think Chow and Lai realized that China was not going to progress if they continued on with Mao's policies, and so he wanted to open up free enterprise, and that's what he did. And of course, nothing homogenizes the world like trade. Nothing.
Yeah.
Trade is what homogenizes us, and language. And so once they started trading with us, then, you know, they started looking and saying, well, wait a minute, you know, why do we have to do this? Why can't we do that? And then the people who make money in China, you know what they do? They buy a place in Australia or the United States and hang on to it in case they got to get out in a
That's
hurry.
right. Buy a condo
Or
in Miami.
Singapore. Yeah, it's an odd system, but you don't see people in the United States, maybe an occasional movie star buying property somewhere else in the world. Like, what's this movie actor's name that's so ultra liberal? ultra liberal, and he has a villa on Lake Como in Italy. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I think Ellen DeGeneres moved out too. I think she's in France as well. But they didn't go to China. They didn't go to North Korea. They didn't go to Russia.
So apparently, there's some limits to their socialist bents, I guess.
As long as the food is still good, we'll go there. Yeah.
Who was the guy that played in the casino thing, Ocean's 11 and all that? What was his name, the star?
Man, there are about 6 of them in there. Brad Pitt was in there, all those guys. Clooney.
Clooney, yeah. He's the
Clooney?
wacko.
Did he move out?
Yeah, I think he moved out. He's got a place over in Italy. Of course, he probably comes back here from time to time and kept his house here, but...
Oh, I'm sure they do, yeah. But they're just trying to make a point. They'll be back in 4 years.
They'll be back.
Mm-hmm. This is where they make all the movies. So you got to come back.
It's truly an interesting world, but nothing homogenizes us like trade. And the West has been trading with China for hundreds and hundreds of years and using the Chinese for cheap labor.
I had a thought over the weekend, probably not going to happen, but could be a negotiating ploy. Maybe not a strong one. What do you think at some point Donald Trump gives up the Sea of China to China for complete control of what is now the Gulf of America, including resources?
That ain't going to happen.
Not going to happen, huh? No?
No way. No. So, I mean, you got to realize that the Sea of China is surrounded by 5 or 6 countries, all of whom do not want the Chinese to have control of those shipping lanes. Because you think about it, if they have control, not only do they have a military edge, because they can say, you can't come in here, get out, it's our water, but they can also increase the tariffs going through there because, you have to pay to go through certain parts of waterways in the world because of pollution and destruction to the habitat and all that kind of nonsense. And so I don't think you're going to see that. And I don't think the United States would be, it would not be strategically in our interest, and it wouldn't be a smart thing to do, because then you'd have to go all the way around the Sea of China, which would add cost to shipping.
Yeah, especially from Japan and places like that. Yeah,
you'd have to go around it, whereas now you can go from Vietnam to Japan or South Korea.
Yeah.
But if you had to go all the way around the Philippines and Japan to get to South Korea, you'd probably be adding another 30% onto your trip.
It's like taking away the Panama Canal over here.
Yeah. It would. Well, that almost doubles your.
But it does.
time.
Yeah, it's a long ride.
South
That's
America's
a long
a
detour.
good-sized continent. Yeah. And so it's a fascinating phenomena, but I don't think we're going to give up anything. And the Gulf of America, I mean, it already was ours. We're just letting you know it's ours now.
That's right.
I mean, we've got so much out there. We've got sub detectors and wave detectors and tsunami detectors and all kinds of equipment that are in the Gulf, and also our oil platforms are out there, which the left would love to destroy.
Okay, yeah.
And why do you want to destroy yourself? What do you want us to go out and live in tents or do like the Chinese did during the Cultural Revolution in the 60s, where all the kids got all hyped up by Mao, and they went out and they forced doctors and nurses to go and work in the fields, and intellectuals, and they harassed their professors and everything else. And so then you had a whole generation of kids that were dumb. They didn't have an education. And you had a loss of health care in a country that was already starving for health care.
I don't get it either, Doc. So, you know what I do
Yeah.
get? That it's time for a break.
Already?
You look like you could have a full cup of coffee if you'd like one, because
Yeah, today I've got my, of course, size matters. Nobody wants a small cup of coffee.
Well, Dr. Bill, your Radio MD coffee mug is not a small cup of coffee. It's a nice, heavy.
It's a good-looking mug.
It's a nice, heavy, good-looking mug, and it can be yours if you're the first person to answer this question at the phone number of 813-282-8282. 83. That's 813-282-8283. First person to answer this question correctly will win one of those mugs. We were talking about the flu earlier and about the flu shot. Tell me, I'll give you it's a multiple choice, by the way. Which level of effectiveness does the flu shot usually hit? Is it 100% effective, 75% effective, 50% effective, or 25% effective? There's your question. First person with the correct answer at 813-282-8283 will win. Ain't that right, Doc?
Absolutely. And Ken, while we're on break, get Joe to help you turn off your video.
Okay. We'll get somebody who knows what they're doing.
Somebody who has some technical background.
I'm sorry, I'm on radio. Yeah.
It's got buttonology down pat.
We'll be back.
We'll be right back.
At Simple Path Retirement, we can offer many of the resources of the large firms, but with the personal attention of a boutique firm. Visit simplepathretirement.com.
With SRN News, I'm Michael Harrington in Washington. Heavy rains and dangerous flooding have struck the southeast U.S. as much of the east endured a renewed round of harsh, soggy weather yesterday, with at least one fatality reported in Kentucky. Water has submerged cars and buildings in that state, and mudslides have blocked roads in Virginia. Both of those states under flood warnings, along with Tennessee and Arkansas. The National Weather Service warning residents to stay off the roads as much as they can. Rwanda-backed rebels have reached the center of East Congo's second-largest city, Bukavu, and taken control of the South Kivu Province Administrative Office this weekend. The M23 rebels are being cheered on by residents in the center of Bukavu this morning after they faced little resistance from government forces, many of whom fled the rebels' advance on Saturday, along with millions of civilian people. This is SRN News.
Dr. Bill for Bay Area Medical, located at 6399 38th Avenue North in St. Pete, 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. Full-service clinic with x-ray, heart imaging, ultrasound, stress testing, and minor surgery. We provide quality health care in a warm and friendly atmosphere. We are multilingual, well-trained, and certified. Most American insurance and new patients accepted. Bay Area Medical, home of Can Care, 727-384-6411. 727-384-6411. Dr. Bill here. With social distancing and sheltering in place, telemedicine is here. Bay Area Medical Home of Can Care Clinic offers telemedicine for new and established patients. You can see me without an in-office visit. Schedule an appointment at 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. When it's time for your appointment, type this web address into your cell phone or computer web browser, doxy.me/Bay Area Med. A cell phone works well and is all you really need. For computers, you need a web camera and speakers. We'll give you this address when you call for your appointment. We accept most insurances and travel insurances. Canadians and visitors, please call your travel insurance company for an authorization number prior to the visit. Copays and deductibles apply. Self-pay rates are available. Just ask. We accept credit cards, PayPal, and Stripe. 727-384-6411. 727-384-6411.
Hey, Doc, it looks like the other problem is one of your things. You've got a setting for Facebook that should say something about
quality
switching.
unsurpassed. 25 years experience makes St. Pete MRI.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Your feed was drowning you out.
And out-of-pocket cost.
The switch from me to you that you're talking about is the setting on your Facebook, not ours.
Near the Gandy, 727-577-2220, 727-577-2220.
As an independent registered investment advisor, Simple Path has the freedom to offer unbiased advice without the potential conflicts of large broker-dealers. Visit simplepathretirement.com.
Today, mostly cloudy and windy. A couple of thunder showers around this afternoon. Our high today at 79. Clearing and cool tonight, low 55. Mostly sunny, pleasant, less humid day on Monday. High tomorrow at 73. Partly cloudy for tomorrow night, low 53. Clouds will be followed by a brightening sky on Tuesday. The high at 77. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Steve Williams for AM 860. The Answer.
Yeah, go Doc. Oh, Doc, you there? I lost you all completely here now.
This is Dr. Bill. I'm back, and we're doing a show. I got Ken by my side. You there, Ken?
I certainly am. I can hear you fine, sir. You're sounding good today. Even with the flu.
Even with the flu, I'm sounding okay. And we talked about the flu earlier and treatment options, and we touched a little bit on hockey, on the great sport of hockey, and the great fights that broke out at the game yesterday, last night over the national anthem, our national anthem. The Canadians don't like it now; they're all booing.
And, who cares? Who cares?
You know, the Europeans are going to be booing soon too.
That's right.
Now the Department of Justice is, Pam Bondi.
Yes, right.
Yeah. She's firing immigration judges amid case backlogs, and so I read the article. It's not really immigration judges per se, but it's also managers and trainees, and so the person who was in charge of this, or one of the people who was in charge of this, was a Biden-level appointee, and she says that it's a real head-scratcher that when we're in a position of trying to get all these people out of the country, Trump and his Department of Justice is firing judges. So it's just a handful. But so there's E3 candidates to become judges, and 5 mid-level assistant chief immigration judges have been fired. So that's a big number, 5, I guess.
I don't know. Wow.
And one of the people was a Biden appointee, and I would guess that she then appointed other people that were Bidenites, and so they're cleaning house there. And guess who's speaking for them? I did not know this.
Who's that?
They have their own union. The immigration judges have a union.
Get out of here.
I mean, why are they unionized? I don't get it. Well, they want more time off or what?
I have no idea. All right, well, they're gonna take it to the courts and it'll slow it all down again. That's the whole plan right now, I think, Doc.
Yeah, Carrie Doyle. Carrie Doyle is one of the recently appointed judges by President Joe Biden, and so she's probably part of the DEI gang, and ultra liberal, and she was previously served as Deputy General Counsel of the Department of Homeland Security during the Biden administration. If I'm not right, the Homeland Security was in charge of the border.
I think you're right there, yeah.
And so they want to stay on? What are they, crazy? They think we're idiots? No, you got to go, baby.
Yeah.
Now it's going to take a lot of time to adjudicate all these people, but a lot of them are here illegally, so they don't even have an opportunity to go to court. I mean, if you came in claiming asylum from a fascist or a communist or socialist regime that you were escaping, then you could get a pass to come into the country legally. But if you didn't and you snuck in here, you don't even go to court.
You just go home. Yeah.
You go home. You get your butt out of here. We've had enough of you.
Yeah. Well, if they can speed up the process, then fine. If that's what it takes. Judges are not the fastest workers in the world. It take a long time for a judge to make a ruling. So. Well,
I don't know if you've ever been in court when they're doing the preliminaries. You know how like on Law and Order they have the preliminary hearing and the judge says, well, I'm sending this to trial, or no, I'm not.
Right. They set trial dates and hearing dates and all that stuff. And God, please, guilty or not. I've been to a lot of those working in news. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's zoos. Those guys really flip through a lot of cases in a hurry.
Yeah.
But I guess when you get to the upper levels, when you get to the circuit court judges and, the state Supreme Court judges, they're very deliberate. But I was talking with one of the state circuit court judges here, and she heard just murder trials. I said, well, I hope I don't come before you. She said, unless you kill somebody, I'm not going to see you. It'll never get there.
Right, yeah.
And those are long trials. Those are 2 to 3 week trials, most of the murder cases, because the state bends over backwards to give the defendant an opportunity to defend themselves. And that's the way our system is set up. You know, better 9 guilty men go free than 1 innocent man go to jail. That's been our mantra.
Yeah, but it takes so long to run through appeals and all that. But by the time you get done with it, 2 years of your administration is gone. That's always been a problem with Washington.
Yep.
You know what's not a problem is getting a winner, Doc. We have a winner.
Oh, good. Give me that name. I'm going to mail things out this week.
It looks like Sienny Seaver. I think that's what this says. Sienny Seaver. Annie Seaver of St. Petersburg is our winner
today. Did you say Annie or Deannie?
I can't make out the writing here. I've talked to my producer here. I look like Annie Seaver, it looks like. Sever.
It's Jenny.
Annie Seaver.
What is it?
Jenny.
Jenny?
She says she has an appointment with him next week.
Jenny Seaver. She got an appointment with the doc? Yeah. Oh, okay. She's coming in to see you. She's one of your patients already.
Oh, hey, Jenny. Well, thanks for being with us on the show today, and appreciate you, love you.
So don't mail it out. Just wait for her to come in. Don't mail it out. Just wait for her to come in. There you go.
Hey, we could do a telemedicine visit right now.
Yeah, she's in St. Petersburg, so congratulations, Jenny, there. All right.
Good job.
And, by the way, the answer to the question was, almost forgot. The question was, how effective are the flu shots every year? And on average, they're 75% effective. So there you go.
There you go.
Thanks to everybody who tried to call in and win. All right, where were we? I'm sorry I interrupted you there.
That's okay. I was moving on. So Senator Joni Ernst, she claims that the USAID is a rogue agency and that they won't give Congress information on where they're spending their money. It dodges congressional questions about money that went to sex traffickers and the Wuhan virus lab. And I don't know, why would you lie about the Wuhan virus? I mean, I never understood that. As you recall, back in late 2019, early 2020, and when I started talking about this, I said it came from the Wuhan lab. The CIA said it, and then they pulled that off. The CIA said it because in 2019, all the cell phone traffic around the lab ceased, which means the roads were blocked because, everybody's got a cell phone and they're pinging off the towers forever and ever. And that's part of our spying as we keep track of cell phone activity, not just individuals, but the actual number and percentage of usage of that. And so they said, well, obviously the plant or the lab has been cordoned off. And we also had reports of these strange respiratory viruses that were coming around and people dying from them. And that's how we knew. And then why did we cover it up, Ken? I don't know. Why did the Biden administration cover it up?
I have no idea.
I mean, I can't understand. Would they think we're going to go to war over a virus in the middle of a pandemic?
Maybe they felt China was to go to war over it. I don't know. It didn't make any sense then. Doesn't make any sense now. Because the first thing you want to do when you find out about something like this is warn everybody.
Yeah, I mean, and then of course the first thing we did was we put a ban on travel from China. What's that tell you?
Yeah, again.
Tells you it came from China, but it didn't come from a warthog in the Wuhan open market.
No, it wasn't from a bat flying around. So anyway, it's
So Senator Joni Ernst, she said that she has repeatedly been rebuffed when she asked for a list of recipients of U.S. tax dollars sent to Ukraine or wherever, and claiming the information was classified.
Classified?
I mean, why are we classifying what we're doing with our money? Now, look, I can see if we're using it for arms and we don't want the enemy to know how much we're putting into the situation. I mean, just as we would do with munitions, we don't want them to know how much we're sending or not sending or where we're sending it. And a lot of this is going through Poland, because Poland's right there on the border, and Poland's part of NATO, and Poland's one of our close working partners in Europe. But
I don't know.
But when they finally relented and allowed her staff to view documents, it was under surveillance in a highly secure room at the USAID headquarters with note-taking prohibited and pictures prohibited. So, what? What is this?
But they did let her see it. They just wouldn't let her talk about it or copy it because it's top secret. Apparently.
So what we're seeing is that aid that was supposed to alleviate economic distress in war-torn nations, like Ukraine and Ethiopia and Palestine, that this money was being sidetracked and sending Ukrainian models and designers on junkets to New York City, London Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week, and going to whatever thuggery group is in power in Ethiopia that we want to be friends with, which of course they put into drugs and buying and selling women.
Yeah, we're just taking our money and
and
not
then
helping
buying
anybody with it at all, right?
And buying arms on the black market, Ken.
Exactly, just what the Hamas did.
Of course, and they're selling drugs too and making money off of that. So they get a chunk of money and they invest in the illicit drug market because it's very lucrative.
Yeah,
and then they can also take the food that we send and they'll seize it and then they'll sell it to the people who it was meant to be for free.
Right.
So they're making money off of everything. It's not a good thing.
It's got to be stopped. It's got to be.
It's got to be stopped. And all these crazy left-wing women that were out protesting the other day in D.C., I mean, they have no idea. What we need to do is take a couple 100,000 of them and send them to these countries that they think they're helping, leave them there for a year or two, and then bring them home and see what they have to say.
Yeah, how much food did you get? How much made its way to? How much trickled down to you there?
Yeah, how's the situation there?
Did you enjoy yourself?
Who was it? One of the actors went to Iraq during the Iraq II. I forget if it was Iraq I or Iraq II war, and they were very anti. When they came back, they didn't say a word.
Really?
They didn't open their mouth ever again. So, I mean, this is using your heart and not your head. And I have this discussion with my liberal nurses and doctors all the time, and I say, look, you're not applying logic. And one of my friends says, do you have to have a study to prove everything? I said, listen, if you don't study what you're doing with your money or with your medications or with your vaccinations, I mean, if you don't have a good scientific way of evaluating the value and the effect of these things, then you're not doing it right. I mean, this isn't about, oh, well, I feel sorry for little Jamal over in Ethiopia who doesn't have a binky and a bottle of milk. I mean, most of the people that are starving over there, it's because they've been pushed out of their villages by the civil wars going on. Same way in South Sudan.
And we can't help everybody. I'm sorry. We just can't help y'all. We just don't have that much resource anymore. Those days are gone. Look to Europe. Look to Australia. Look to the Middle East. They seem to have enough money to help you out.
Yeah. And White Coat Waste Project was one of the first to release evidence to the press that the USAID and Anthony Fauci's National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease were financing the bat virus studies involving coronavirus at the Wuhan lab, which were being turned into super viruses, and one of them got out. And then we had the COVID epidemic. And so these agencies are not reporting to anybody. They're acting as if they're independent of the rest of the government.
Yeah, and it's just not working. Everything should be examined on I would say at least a 5-year basis, maybe 10, but 5, certainly.
I mean, these are small figures, but $2 million was spent promoting tourism to Lebanon while the State Department was saying, don't go to Lebanon.
Okay, see, that's, yeah.
What?
Exactly.
Somebody help me here.
Exactly, Doc. So,
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's got to be controlled, folks. We just can't hand out money unless you're handing it to me.
And then we spent tons of money, millions of dollars paying people to dig irrigation ditches in Afghanistan and encouraging them to grow food crops instead of poppies. Well, you know what happened there. The poppy crops
more money on poppy.
They had more money, yeah. Poppy cultivation nearly doubled. I mean, they're not stupid, They
want money just like the rest of us.
Yeah, it's all about cash.
Exactly. But we can't, I'm sorry, we can't do this around the world anymore. We just don't have the resources.
So
and
that's
the big fear, again, I guess, is that China is going to fill the void. They're going to pour money into everybody's country, and they're all going to be Chinese allies. I guess that's the big fear.
But you know what they don't realize, the Chinese, is that they'll get stiffed just like we've gotten stiffed in Venezuela, where we've poured money into that country off and on for decades. And then when a right-wing or left-wing regime comes in, they kick us all out, including our oil companies, and nationalize everything.
Right.
And then they calm down and they invite us back in, and we stupidly go back in and give them more money.
I know. We did that in the Philippines like 3 times already now. They kick us out and we go back.
It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. You want to be by yourselves? Be by yourselves. You want to be with China? Be with China. You want to be with Russia? Be with Russia. But our days of regulating the world are done, I think.
Well, I think the Russians are a little short on cash right now.
They're having a little trouble.
Much influence they have in the world. And if we keep the Ukrainians armed, I mean, the losses they're suffering are I don't know if it's true or not, but they have had 1 million casualties, hundreds of thousands of deaths of their young people.
In Ukraine, yeah, probably.
Fighting the Ukrainians. I mean, this is the Russian war mantra: is you just throw more troops at them.
That's right.
I mean, they had 5 times the number of troops that the Nazis had, and they just overwhelmed them, surrounded them, arrested them, and marched them all off to prison. And I think of Paulus's army of 250,000 at Stalingrad. You know how many made it back to Germany?
A handful, really.
5,000.
Yeah, I thought it was very small. Yeah.
So they took them out in Siberia and turned them into slave labor and worked them to death.
Yeah.
At any rate, that's Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa, and we appreciate her. She's a great, great person. We love her, and we need her, and we want her.
There's nothing wrong with examining the books, Doc. Nothing at all.
Yep, there's nothing at all. I mean, if you don't examine your books, how are you going to run your business?
You can't. You don't. You got to know what you have so you don't spend it. That's part of the problem. We haven't been looking, so we just keep spending. Got to stop the spending, Doc.
It makes no sense. Now, what's going on in Israel is interesting. Trump said that if they didn't release all the hostages by yesterday, all hell would break loose. And, of course, the Israelis are like, wait, calm down. They'll kill the rest of our hostages, and then we won't win our seats back into the Knesset, which is their parliament. So the Ukrainians did agree to resume the peace or the truce that they had negotiated or had been negotiated with the Israelis. And I guess they were off track. And so I think they're releasing 3 more people today, but it's unbelievable. I mean, I feel sorry for the families, but you sacrifice 70 or 80 people to defeat the Palestinians. I mean, I don't get it. You're going to lose a lot more soldiers than that.
Yeah.
If you don't, if you let them continue, then they're going to continue to attack.
I know. You can't. Appeasement never works, ever.
No.
It just encourages the bully to move on, even stronger. So there you go. That's the message today. A good defense will beat a good offense. We saw that last week.
Yep.
In the Super Bowl. So.
Oh my gosh! I mean, Philadelphia was a monster.
they were playing with a ferocity I haven't seen in a long time in a Super Bowl. Yeah.
Kind of reminded me of the Bucks when Tony Dungy was here and we won the Super Bowl. Remember that?
I wasn't here yet, but
Well, that was
I
our
did see it,
defense,
yeah.
and that's what he said. Our defense win. He said defenses win the game.
That's right.
And I think we played L.A. Rams, I think, and it was like a 30-6 game or something like that.
Well, the Eagles' defense reminded me a lot of the '85 Bears. I mean, they just swarmed and closed everything down. There was nothing.
Oh, they were
There was
unbelievable.
nothing for him to do. Yeah. So it was fun. Doc, we got about 5 minutes left here?
Get out of town.
Yeah, I know. The show's just flying by away. Just flying by today.
Yeah, it's flying by.
What else is on your mind this morning?
Well, I was going to talk briefly about this guy, Ulrich, who had started this website called Silk Road back in the early 2000s, and the federal government, the FBI, shut it down in 2013, and they were conducting trades with Bitcoins only, and it was all secret. So, of course, guess what it turned into?
What's that?
A drug trading website.
Oh, okay. All right.
And so then they arrested this guy, Ulrich, and I guess he's still locked up. I think this is one of the guys that Trump pardoned, but I can't remember.
Name doesn't sound familiar, so I'm not sure either. Yeah.
Ross Ulbricht. Maybe they didn't let him out. I don't know. And he went under the dark pseudonym of Dread Pirate Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
And his site was called Silk Road. And the site facilitated sales amounting to 9,519,000 Bitcoins. So they were doing pretty good business.
9 million Bitcoins worth who knows what, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, what was a Bitcoin worth back then? Maybe $10,000-$20,000 bucks.
Possibly, yeah, maybe that
You're
much.
talking about a lot of cash.
Well, yes, you are. Yeah.
I wanted to get in on that. Damn it!
I don't understand
Why
this.
didn't you
I
call
don't
me?
invest in things I don't understand. So.
And you know what the Silk Road is?
It's in China.
Well, it's a trade route, and there's
Right.
probably 2 or 3 different ones that go from Xi'an, China, all the way to the Black Sea. And so the goods coming by land back in the day on camels or whatever would come across Central and Western Asia and end up in Europe after they got across the Urals, and they'd unload their goods at some of the ports on the Black Sea, and those would be carried around to the European communities and sold. And that's how the Black Plague came to Europe. Is it started in Asia, and they brought it on the Silk Road, and then the Venetian ships that were the big traders back then, they picked up goods, and they also picked up a little Black Plague while they were there. And brought that to Europe, and of course it worked its way around the world except for the Americas, because the Europeans didn't have any contact with the Americas yet.
How many people did that kill, the Black Plague? I don't recall. It was millions, though, wasn't it? I mean,
it took out about a third of Europe.
Oh, really? That much? Okay.
Yeah, it took out about a third of Europe, and it changed the way the world looked at natural disasters, plagues, and hurricanes and tornadoes and droughts and famines and all that, because before that, the Christian mantra in Europe was that we were evil and that God was punishing us with these things. And then after that, the young kids said, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. Sister Mary Holywater, Prince Valiant, these were good people who never did anything wrong. They protected us, they taught us, they helped us learn and grow. And the Black Plague got them. So maybe it's not God. Maybe it's just some kind of natural phenomena.
Maybe it's the rats. Yeah, maybe it's the rats running around everywhere.
Yeah, and this opened up the whole floodgate of questioning religion, questioning Rome and the Catholic Church, and then you had the Protestant Revolution after that. So it changed the way we looked at things.
Doc, you got about 30 seconds here on the old clock. You want to give the address and phone number and all that for the business?
6399 38th Avenue North, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33710-727-384, 6411-727-384-6411. That's all I got, Ken.
Very good, Doc. Get better. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.